Welcome to episode 6 of True Crime and Sims. We're going to play a little Sims while learning about a historic true crime case. This week, we're talking about a case that was billed as the crime of the century. The perpetrators were too smart to be captured by the police. At least that's what they thought. Since we're talking about this case, though, I'm sure you can figure out how that turned out for them. And a couple of little warnings. I'm still suffering from a little bit of congestion, so my voice may sound a little off, and I'm hearing thunder outside, so I hope that doesn't affect the recording, but I did want to give you a heads up on that. So to catch up with our Sims, Clara is going to find out she's pregnant in this episode. Clara and Kyle both seem to want to have a little boy, but I just have a feeling that it's going to be a little girl. I've picked out the names Logan if it's a boy and Whitney if it's a girl. Clara is going to be running to her bakery in this episode. She's going to be making sure they have baked goods to sell. Anyway, I'm excited to see the baby born. And without further ado, let's get into the case. I don't normally put a warning on these because they're crime cases, so they're bound to get a bit dark. But this one hit me a little bit different. And I just wanted to give you guys a heads up that even though I try not to get into all of the gory details with the cases I cover, this one was a little rough on me. Nathan Leopold was born in 1904 in Chicago. He was raised in a wealthy family. He was considered to be a child prodigy, and as he grew up, he was considered to be a genius. According to his family, he spoke his first words when he was only 4 months old. As an adult, he claimed to be fluent in 5 languages and had a basic understanding of several others. He earned national recognition because of his study of birds. After graduating from the University of Chicago, he had plans to go to Harvard Law. He was admitted into Pi Beta Kappa, which is one of the oldest academic honor societies in America, and was started in 1776. Very few students are admitted into this honor society, so it's a pretty big deal to call yourself Pi Beta Kappa. Nathan's best friend, Leopold Loeb, was born in 1905 in Chicago. His keen intellect allowed him to skip several grades in school. At 17, he became the youngest graduate of the University of Michigan. His interest in history led to him pursuing a graduate degree from the University of Chicago. Though Richard and Nathan were raised in the same affluent neighborhood in Chicago, they didn't really know each other that well. It wasn't until they reconnected at the University of Chicago that their relationship really began to bloom. They seemed to bond over their interest in crime. Nathan Leopold also became obsessed with Nietzsche's idea of supermen. He believed that he and his best friend were supermen, that they were above the average human, and that their intellect allowed them to transcend human law. Their belief in their own brilliance, their lack of regard for others, and their interest in crime led them to pursue certain criminal endeavors. They started with simple acts of theft and vandalism. At one point, they broke into a fraternity on campus and stole a typewriter. After that, they began to move on to arson. The two were upset at the lack of news coverage concerning their crimes. They desired to orchestrate the perfect crime, something that would grab the nation's attention. They believed they were smart enough to commit a heinous act and get away with it. Their next crime would involve kidnapping of a young boy for ransom. The two boys had grown up in affluent families. They didn't need the money, but they wanted to prove something, that they could outsmart the police. They used their stolen typewriter to type a ransom note. They devised a series of complex instructions that would be delivered one phone call at a time. At the end of this, what they came up with was something like a complex scavenger hunt that would force their young victim's family to run around. They hoped that this effort would throw off police and investigators and allow them to get away with the money. They spent 7 months planning this crime. They had everything planned out, down to the last little detail. The two searched extensively for the perfect victim. They began to go to Leopold Loeb's old school, and they decided to kidnap Robert Bobby Franks. Richard and Bobby were second cousins, and the boy lived across the street from Richard. On May 21st, 1924, the two decided it was finally time to act. Nathan Leopold had rented a car under the name of Morton D. Ballard. The two pulled up beside the 14-year-old Bobby and offered him a ride. Bobby refused, stating that he wasn't going very far. Richard was able to convince Bobby to get into the car. Richard appealed to their shared interest of tennis. Richard had long enjoyed playing the sport, and Bobby had also showed an interest. He had actually played tennis at the Loeb household before. No one knows exactly what happened once Bobby got into the car, but it's believed that Nathan Leopold was the one that was driving. It's believed that Bobby got into the passenger seat, where Richard bashed him over the head with a chisel. Bobby was then dragged to the back seat and gagged. Bobby wouldn't survive the attack, but that was actually part of Richard and Nathan's dastardly plan. It was incredibly unlikely that the two ever intended to let him live to begin with. So like I said, they had planned this out to the last little detail. The next part involved them disposing of the body, as they had originally planned. They drove 25 miles from Chicago to a town called Hammond. In Hammond, they went to a place called Wolf Lake. They dumped Bobby's clothes in the lake and hid Bobby in a nearby culvert. In an effort to conceal Bobby's identity, they dumped hydrochloric acid on the young boy. By the time Leopold and Loeb made it back to Chicago, Bobby's family had already noticed his absence. Nathan made a call to Bobby's mother and stated that his name was George Johnson. He informed Bobby's mother that Bobby had been kidnapped and she would soon receive a ransom note. Leopold and Loeb mailed the ransom note, burned their bloody clothes, and began cleaning the rental car. Once they felt their crime was adequately concealed, they decided to spend the rest of the night playing cards. The next morning, once the Franks received the initial ransom note, Leopold called and gave the family further instructions. Leopold and Loeb's plans experienced a major setback when a family member forgot the address where they were supposed to receive the next set of instructions. The ransom plan was ruined altogether once Bobby's body was recovered. After the discovery, the two kidnappers destroyed the typewriter and burned the blanket they used to move the body. Chicago police began an immediate investigation, even offering a reward to anyone that could help catch the killers. While Richard Loeb refused to talk to the police, Nathan Leopold was extremely excited to offer his opinions on the crime to the police. He went so far as to tell them that if he killed someone, it would be someone like Bobby Franks. Police had found a pair of eyeglasses near the body. The glasses contained a rare hinge that had only been sold 3 times in the Chicago area. One of the people who had purchased these glasses was Nathan Leopold. When asked, Leopold claimed that he must have dropped the glasses while bird watching in the park earlier that week. On May 29th, 7 days after Bobby's disappearance, the duo were officially questioned by police. Their alibi was that they had used Nathan's car to pick up 2 women. They spent some time with these women before dropping them off at a golf course. Unfortunately, they never bothered to ask for the women's surnames. Their alibi was exposed as a lie when the Leopold's chauffeur stated that he had been making repairs to the car on the night of Bobby's disappearance. The chauffeur's wife confirmed that she had seen the car parked in the Leopold's garage that night. Richard Loeb was the first to confess. He pinned the blame for everything on Leopold. Richard claimed that he was the one driving, while Nathan was the one that killed Bobby. Nathan's own confession contradicted this. He claimed that he was the driver. While no one knows for sure which one drove, it's commonly believed that Nathan Leopold was the driver that night. Both men stated that they didn't look forward to committing the crime. They had simply desired to know that they were smart enough to get away with it. Their trial became a media circus. They were defended by the renowned attorney Clarence Darrow. Darrow, who stood firmly against the death penalty, wanted to protect them from getting a death sentence. He managed to persuade the judge. The judge stated that Leopold and Loeb's youth was really what saved them from the death penalty. The two were sentenced to life in prison for the murder, plus 99 years for the kidnapping. Despite initially being separated, they managed to maintain their friendship in prison. When they were reunited, they began on working to establish better school systems within the prison system. In 1936, 12 years after the crime was committed, Richard Loeb was attacked in the prison shower room. His attacker, James Day, claimed that he had simply been defending himself. Day didn't have a single injury, and most of Loeb's injuries were defensive wounds. Day made claims that Loeb was trying to, something I can't actually say on YouTube, which was actually something Day was allegedly known to do to other inmates. The prison decided to rule it as self-defense, likely to cover up Day's motives behind the attack in the first place. Though Loeb would not survive his attack, Nathan Leopold would continue to serve his sentence. He would spend his time volunteering with the prison's education system and in the prison hospital. In 1958, he released his life story in a book entitled Life Plus 99 Years. The book drew criticism for focusing on Leopold's good traits and glossing over his earlier crime. Many believed that the book was a ploy to make himself look good to the parole board. If that was the case, then it worked. That same year, Nathan Leopold was released from prison. He would go on to marry a widowed woman and obtain a master's degree. With his new degree, he would work in the education system. At one point, he tried to use the proceeds from his book to set up a charity in Chicago, but the city refused to allow that to happen. Leopold died in 1971 at the age of 66. This case has inspired books, plays, and episodes, including an episode of Criminal Minds. Leopold and Loeb have long been rumored to have been lovers. I couldn't find anything that solidly confirmed or denied that fact. If they were, it was likely kept a secret considering how things were at the time. I really did try to find something that would either confirm or deny that fact because I know it's a rumor that's really surrounded this case. I don't like to just assume. So I did want to point out that I couldn't find anything that confirmed or denied that. It's possible they were. It's possible they were just good friends. But I've heard them called the gay Bonnie and Clyde before. So I did want to address their orientation at some point in this video. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. There'll be a new episode coming soon with another historic true crime case, so please be sure to keep a lookout and tune in next time to see what we'll be covering in the next episode. Also in the next episode, we'll be finding out whether we're having a boy or a girl, so we'll find out if it's a Whitney or a Logan. And since Kyle is in the doctor profession, he will eventually reach a point where he'll be able to determine the baby's gender before it's born, and so that will be kind of fun. Maybe we'll use that feature in future pregnancies, but I think he's still too low ranked in the field to do that as of yet.